Esphigmenou Monastery is an Eastern Orthodox monastery in the monastic state of Mount Athos in Greece, dedicated to the Ascension of Christ. It is built next to the sea at the northern part of the Athonite peninsula. Located near the Hilandar monastery, it is the northernmost of all Athonite monasteries. The current monastery dates back to the 10th century, while tradition holds that the site had been used as a monastery since as early as the 5th century. Esphigmenou ranks 18th in the hierarchy of the Athonite monasteries, and since the early 1970s has been embroiled in legal and ecclesiastical disputes. This is the largest monastery on Mount Athos, with around 100 monks. Name. In Greek, the monastery's name literally means tightened, and there are conflicting traditions regarding the origin of the name. One attributes it to the fact that the monastery is built on a stretch of land, tightened by 3 surrounding hills and the sea. John Comnenus, a 17th-century metropolitan of Drystra, wrote in his book Proskynetarion to Aguiorus to Athonos, "It is called Esphigmenou because it is restricted by 3 small mountains, close to the sea." Another tradition attributes the name to a monk who either founded or restored the monastery, recounting that he used to wear a tight rope around his waist, so from him the monastery got its name of the Titan. History. Athonite tradition attributes the foundation of the monastery to the Byzantine Emperor Theodosius II and his sister Pulcheria during the 5th century. According to the same tradition, this early monastery was destroyed by a huge rock that fell from the nearby hills. According to the same tradition, its remains can still be found 500 meters from the existing monastery. Historical and archaeological evidence cannot safely confirm this tradition, and therefore the precise time of the monastery's foundation, as well as its founders, cannot be positively identified. The evidence can, however, confirm that as early as the late 10th or early 11th century the monastery existed. It is mentioned in at least 3 manuscripts. The monastery is referred to in a letter by Paul of Zerapotamou dating from 1016. The will of the monk Demetrius of Chalky, dating from 1030, is signed by a monk who calls himself Theoctistos, monk and abbot of Esphigmenou Monastery. Finally, the monastery is mentioned in the second Typicon of Mount Athos in 1046. The monastery greatly prospered until the Ottoman conquest. Many Byzantine emperors, such as John V Palaiologos, contributed to this prosperity, as did other Orthodox rulers such as Serbian Emperor Stefan Dušan and Serbian despot Urad Branković. This prosperity was, however, shrouded by constant disputes over land issues with the neighboring Vatipedio monastery, as well as by many pirate raids and 2 great fires that damaged the monastery during the 14th century. According to manuscripts held in the monastery's collection, the pirates posed a serious threat to the monastery because the sea near it is usually calm compared to the seas around the rest of the Athonite peninsula. Because of these reasons, the monastery was eventually ruined and practically deserted, which allowed the nearby monasteries of Hilandar and Zograf to grab various portions of land from it, which led to further legal disputes. However, the monastery managed to recover eventually, as evidenced by a manuscript dated from 1569 that tells of 51 monks working for its re-establishment. In 1655, Tsar Alexis I of Russia gave the monks permission to travel throughout his lands every 5 years to raise funds for the monastery. During the same period, the rulers of the Danubian principalities also made significant contributions to the monastery. During the early 18th century, Bishop Gregory of Melanikon made donations to the monastery and eventually became one of its monks, undertaking a renovation of the monastery. Also, Bishop Daniel of Thessaloniki took care of the monastery's finances and with the consent of the Athonite community, and Patriarch Gerasimus III of Constantinople made the monastery a cenobium. The relevant patriarchal edict was published in 1797 by Patriarch Gregory V of Constantinople, who also rebuilt the southern part of the monastery that had been ruined. A series of competent abbots greatly renovated and expanded the monastery, to the point where the current structures date almost exclusively from the time. The successor of Agathocles, Lucas, founded an iconographic school, which did great service to the monastery for many years. During the Greek War of Independence, the monastery, being the northernmost on the peninsula, suffered gravely from the Ottoman armies that ravaged Mount Athos. However, during this period, it also experienced some degree of prosperity. During the Macedonian struggle, the monastery supported the Greek guerrillas in the struggle against the Bulgarian Komitarges. Controversy. Esphigmenou, along with other Mount Athos monasteries, scatis and monks, had been involved in a long dispute with the Ecumenical Patriarchate of Constantinople. The dispute continues since a new Esphigmenou Brotherhood was established. The monastic community of Mount Athos is under the direct spiritual jurisdiction of the Ecumenical Patriarch, and all Athonite monks are canonically required to commemorate the Patriarch. However, since the 1970s, Esphigmenou, along with other Mount Athos monasteries, had accused the Ecumenical Patriarch Athenagoras of being a ecumenist and had refused to commemorate him. These complaints mainly consist of canon law prohibiting Orthodox from praying with heretics. The relationship between the monks of Esphigmenou Monastery and the Ecumenical Patriarchate has greatly deteriorated since 2002, when Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew I of Constantinople declared them as being in schism from the Orthodox Church. Since the Constitution of Greece prohibits schismatics from dwelling in Athos, the occupants of Esphigmenou were ordered by a Thessaloniki court to leave the monastery. However, they refused to comply. The case was taken to the Greek Supreme Court. The Holy Synod of the Ecumenical Patriarchate reacted by declaring the schismatic monks inside Esphigmenou illegal, and sanctioned the formation of a new Esphigmenou Brotherhood, under the spiritual guidance of Archimandrite Chrysostomos Katsouliris. Esphigmenou again gained global attention in December 2006 when members of the new Brotherhood tried to force their way into the monastery's offices. In Charis, in the ensuing clashes, 7 monks were severely injured. In January 2007, the district attorney of Thessaloniki pressed charges against the monks of Esphigmenou for embezzlement of over €150,000 and the estate, rightfully belonging to the monastery. The monks have not given up and remain inside the premises of Esphigmenou as of 2016, under blockade, as shown in a travel documentary by British presenter Simon Reeve. Architecture. The monastery is home to various important structures. Although the monastery was founded no later than the 11th century, the current structures were built mainly during the first half of the 19th century. The general outline of the monastery is a rectangular wall which forms a spacious inner courtyard. In the middle of the courtyard lies the Catholicon, surrounded by the wings that house the monks' cells, the guest house and the refectory. The Catholicon, which is dedicated to the Ascension of Christ, was built between 1806 and 1810 by the abbot Theodoritos on the site of an earlier Catholicon and in the manner of Athonite churches. It was consecrated by Patriarch Gregory V in 1811. The construction of the Catholicon was greatly aided by personal donations from Bishop Ignatius of Cassandra. The temple itself is spacious and majestic and bears 8 domes on its lead-covered roof, the central dome being the largest. The marble used for its construction was transported to Athos from Tinos, the place of origin of the church's architect, Paul. The nave of the Catholicon was decorated with iconography in 1811 and the sanctuary in 1818 by the iconographers Veniamin, Zacharias and Macarios. The decoration was completed in 1841 with iconography of the narthex by the iconographers Iosaf, Nicephorus, Gerasimus and Anthemos. The altar, the iconostasis, as well as other features of the temple, date back to this era. The iconostasis in particular, which depicts scenes from the Old and the New Testaments, is carved wood, covered with golden plating, and is considered one of the most important post-Byzantine iconostases on Athos. The Catholicon also has 2 chapels, a vestibule and a porch, added in 1845 by Ecumenical Patriarch Anthimus V of Constantinople, a previous Esphigmenide monk. Outside the southeastern corner of the Catholicon there is a font that is used to keep holy water. It was built in 1815 by the abbot Euthymios, at the site of an older similar structure that dated from the time of John V Palaiologos. The structure is roofed by a dome that is held up by 8 marble columns, connected by sculpted marble metopes. The refectory is the oldest building in the monastery. It is a semi-detached building in the west wing, across from the Catholicon. It is a rectangular building, renovated in 1810 by Abbot Euthymios. Its iconography, dating back to the 16th and 17th centuries, still survives, albeit greatly damaged by the fires that the Ottoman soldiers lit to accommodate themselves during their stay in the monastery during the Greek Revolutionary War. The monastery also has 13 chapels, 8 inside the main complex and 5 outside. Among the inner chapels, the most important of the Chapel of the Presentation of Mary and the Chapel of the Archangels at the sides of the Catholicon. The other inner chapels are distributed at various sites inside the monastery and contain no frescoes but house important icons. Of the outer chapels, the most notable is the Chapel of St. Anthony of Kiev, the founder of the Kiev Petrus Lavra. St. Antony's life states he became a monk on Athos, and Esphigmenou's tradition has his having lived in a secluded cave there overlooking the sea, which is still shown to visitors, and he is commemorated on the Feast for All Saints of Esphigmenou that lies just across from the monastery. Cultural treasures. The monastery's treasury houses many important relics. The treasury, along with the monastery's library, are temporarily housed over the Catholicon's narthex. Among important cultural treasures, such as crosses, books, garments, etc., Esphigmenou has in its possession a large part of Napoleon Bonaparte's tent, which was donated to the monastery by Patriarch Gregory V of Constantinople. The monks use this once a year, at the celebration of the Ascension of Christ, as a tent over the entrance of the Catholicon. The so-called Cross of Pulcheria lies at the Catholicon's altar, which also houses cases of holy relics on a very important Byzantine mosaic icon. The icon is barely 0.15 times 0.07 square meters and depicts Christ in a standing position in great detail. The icon is surrounded by a silver frame that depicts the apostles, while holy relics are embedded on its lower side. The monastery also has a large collection of manuscripts. Its library houses 372 manuscripts, of which 75 are parchment, some bearing iconographic decoration. Famous among these is the renowned Milogian coded number 14, that bears 80 miniatures. The library also holds a collection of roughly 2,000 printed books, while 6,000 more are housed in another part of the monastery, on the second floor of the northern wing. Administration of Mount Athos. The Holy Mountain is governed by the Holy Community, which consists of the representatives of the 20 holy monasteries, having as executive committee the 4-membered Holy Administration, with the protos being its head. Civil authorities are represented by the civil governor, appointed by the Greek Ministry of Foreign Affairs, whose main duty is to supervise the function of the institutions and the public order. Due to its irregular relations with the Patriarchate of Constantinople, Esphigmenou had long not been represented in the Holy Community, but presently the new Esphigmenou Brotherhood, which is still seeking full access to the monastery land, seats a representative. Bibliography. Cardas, Soteris. The Holy Mountain, Athens, Ekditikathenon, ISBN 960213199-3.